What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. So we had all of these quarterback options over the course of free agency in the offseason. Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill. There was guys that were on rosters that we were, potentially considering trading for. It ultimately looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to be our guy, but the New York Jets seem to have had a plan B in place that none of us considered before in Matthew Stafford, at least if you believe the reports by Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. And I do find this fascinating, right? We're talking about another Super Bowl winning quarterback, but a guy that's been very underrated in his career. A lot of people that either think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever touch the ball, or he's one of, many quarterbacks that have a lot of stats, but ultimately they're trash based off their records. But it seemed like he could have been a plan B. It was suggested that the Rams would have welcomed a trade opportunity for Stafford with them, moving a bunch of guys, Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey. They're looking to what's been called remodel the team. And we know that the way the Rams have been building recently, they've been sacrificing a lot of draft capital in order to secure themselves a Super Bowl, which they ultimately were able to do on one of the best years from Matthew Stafford, actually, in recent memory. So, what gives? I even heard comments from Les Snead recently, calling Matthew Stafford a pillar for the team. And a lot of this is coming after the fact that a lot of people's quarterback situations got settled. But I do think it would have been worth a significant conversation. I do think, in theory, let's say things go beyond whatever the set deadline that Joe Douglas and company have to get this Aaron Rodgers trade completed. Maybe they go back and look at a trade for Matthew Stafford. Things are going to be vastly different this go around, though, although negotiations, all that kind of stuff aren't too dissimilar from Aaron Rodgers. So we're talking about right now, the Rams have already had to commit $57 million to Stafford. That was as of Friday, last Friday, March 17th. That was the pre-designated date for those bonuses and different things in this contract to hit. $31 million base salary got guaranteed, and a $26 million option bonus that got picked up. But, we're talking about Matthew Stafford most recently in the 2022 season. He's coming off spinal cord contusion injuries mid-year, elbow injuries. We know that Matthew Stafford has been one of the most durable quarterbacks in the NFL. However, he has played through a litany of issues that I think a lot of other quarterbacks would have crumpled for. I mean, we are talking about, one of the more massive quarterbacks in terms of physical size, 6'3", 220 pounds. For the longest, he was one of the quarterbacks you looked to when you wanted to coin the term arm talent, right? Matthew Stafford was a guy that almost felt like he could fling it the entirety of the football field for, time. And obviously he's losing a lot of that with age and, the hits adding up on his body. But he would have been an interesting quarterback to think about in terms of a pocket passer, right? He's obviously been able to rush a fair amount over the course of his career now, but he's not a guy that's fleet of foot. He's not nimble. He's not going to make a ton of guys miss. Basically, he's going to try to truck you and maybe keep a play moving. And when available, yes, he can kind of get the Tom Brady run going and, maybe make some things happen here and there. But, the Rams kind of brought a bit of a career revival after the Lions decided to move on from him. As I mentioned, he did acquire his Super Bowl first year with the Rams, and it was one of his best statistical seasons since he won the Comeback Player of the Year award. And I want to say this was back in 2011, 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, just shy of 5,000 yards. And one of the things that you can consistently hang your hat on with a guy like Matthew Stafford was that he was going to bring a gunslinger mentality. If there was a play to be made, he's going to try to make it, and he's not settling for anything less than, continuous chain movement, first downs when available. You talk early on in his career, him relying pretty heavily on guys like Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate there for a portion of time. So it would be interesting. I don't think Matthew Stafford would have been a better option than a Derek Carr, let's say. But if you were to tell me that, trades with Aaron Rodgers fell through. Derek Carr ended up still signing with the Saints because we were dragging our feet. And we've seen what happened with Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Raiders and different things like that. I would look at Matthew Stafford and potentially say, hey, best option of a bad bunch for us if we don't want to try to trust a talent like Jacoby Brissett to maybe be that bridge quarterback in the meantime while we complete the roster. But he would have added a legitimate air of excitement, in my opinion, just with what he could have potentially done with this team. I mean, you know, taking the Rams to the Super Bowl, even with everything they tried to do to make that roster available. And of course, he had the help of, one of the finest defenses you could find in the NFL. It makes a lot of sense, but that's a lot of the same sentiments that we shared for why our team would look excellent with an Aaron Rodgers or with a Derek Carr. And, I felt like we were one of the best quarterback spots for any quarterback to want to choose. Realistically, if, said quarterback can get past the Zach Wilson, love affair we still seem to have, but conversation for another day. But I am curious, what are your guys' thoughts for Matthew Stafford, Super Bowl winning quarterback, a guy that owns a 89-101, record for his career, one loss added to that. But 63.2 career per completion percentage, over 50,000 yards, over 330 touchdowns in his career. It would have been an interesting debate if nothing else, but let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the whole Matthew Stafford situation, and if you would still consider him as a viable option if this Aaron Rodgers saga gets a little too crazy. And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.